Hey, quick question about tonight. I'm playing as Jeff, a College of Lore bard who is aggressively chaotic evil, already off to a bad start. I wanted to ask if it's okay if one of his instruments is something he calls the thirst horn. Essentially, when Jeff blows the horn, it emits a universal, irresistible mating call. But I also wanted to give you, as the DM, total creative freedom with it. So whenever it's blown, you get to decide what volatile, romance-deprived monster or NPC within a 1 mile radius comes charging to find the source. Let me know what you think. I thought it would be a fun addition to an unhinged character. Hey, quick question. What the f***? Some context. This was posted in a local board game cafe group chat that hosts one-shots every week for new and experienced players of all ages? Yeah, okay. So this went from a shitpost that one of my players would probably jokingly suggest to this man needs to be put on a list. A player rage quit over a nat 20 failing. To start off, this was a Pathfinder 2e game. Oh, and I immediately don't remember what the rule for this is. Do nat 20s make a difference between D&D and PF2e? In D&D, a nat 20 on an attack roll is an automatic success and nowhere else. Doesn't matter for ability checks or saving throws, a nat 20 does not do anything, like extra for those. At least not rules as written. There are two rules that matter here. First, if you roll 10 below the DC, that roll is a critical failure. The second is that a nat 20 isn't an automatic critical success. It instead just makes the roll one step better, from success to critical success, very rarely a failure to a success, and theoretically, a critical failure to a failure. This last bit isn't relevant in 99.9% of games, because why would you ever make the players roll something that literally cannot succeed? This story, however, is about that 0.1% where this distinction matters. I'm not going to bore you with a relevant backstory, but at multiple points throughout the campaign, the party encounters a mysterious Resident Evil style merchant that always seems to show up at the perfect time and in unlikely circumstances. This is because the merchant is secretly an extremely high level creature pretending to be this low level merchant. Anyways, after repeatedly meeting him in extremely suspicious circumstances and the fact that he is completely untrained in deception, the party's fighter grew so suspicious of the merchant that despite the rest of the party trying to stop them, they attacked the merchant. I let them roll and they got a nat 20. However, due to just how high level the merchant was, that was still a critical failure, which means the nat 20 turned into a regular failure. I explained how the merchant moved impossibly fast, and you aren't sure why, but it's very clear that this merchant is far more than what he seems. For the rest of the party, this was an extremely interesting development, and they immediately started speculating about what he could possibly be. Yeah, that's about how I would react. This actually, I'm already very invested, and I want to know more about this campaign. For the fighter, this was an outrage. And despite me explaining how the rules work, and that despite failing, that may have been the most impactful nat 20 of the campaign, they argued that they should have crit, which they believed would one-shot them. That's not how crits work, buddy. You still gotta roll your damage. Another player brought up that if a nat 20 missed, the damage would probably barely scratch them. But the fighter was insistent. After ending the session early to let everyone cool down, he decided to barrage me with DMs while I was sleeping before quitting the campaign because they could no longer trust me. Not a huge loss, but still the strangest way a player left one of my campaigns. Yeah, honestly, good riddance on that one. Clearly nothing of value was lost. I'm already seeing a lot of red flags here. Arguing with the DM, not understanding how the rules work, and arguing about the rules, not even just the DM's ruling, but rules as written. Also, the DM and the players were hyping up the fighter, letting him know, yeah, maybe you missed, but that is still a really important nat 20. We learned a lot of information there, and you're still kind of going against them? That's... If there's 6 people in the room and 5 people are calling you an asshole, you might be an asshole. My player signed the worst bargain with the devil I've ever seen, and only got around 1,000 gold worth of items. Bella, baby. Hi, sweetie. Been a while since we've had you on camera, huh? You guys can't see it, but she's now sleeping by my feet. There's a perfectly good couch right there, but nope, right by my feet. So I included a devil merchant in my Curse of Strahd campaign. I knew from experience that if I didn't make my merchant some kind of powerful being with teleportation magic, my players would murder him for his shoes. I know some of you are probably thinking this is a party full of murder hobos, but if you've never played Curse of Strahd, let's just say you become very paranoid about every NPC after a while. The devil's reason for helping the party is so he can learn how Strahd, the main bad guy, pulls souls into Barovia, the place Strahd traps people, and if the devil can learn how to do the same, but with pulling souls into the hells. One of my players offers his soul to the devil in exchange for 3 items from his shop. Out of character, I don't want to screw this player out of a good ending because he made a dark pact right before the final arc. So I say, a fantastic offer. Sadly, your soul is trapped in Barovia and holds no value to me. He doubles down. He says that he can kill Strahd and bring his soul back as payment, while the devil keeps his soul as collateral. I decide to print out a contract. Just read the agreement and tell me if you think my player made a good deal. The player will be allowed to take any 3 items from the devil's shop. The devil immediately removed the high value items the player hadn't seen from his shop. The player forfeits his soul immediately to the devil. When he dies, there will be no saves or resurrection, as his soul will go to the devil. Ooh, that's a rough one. The player will immediately put on a ring that binds to his finger, permanently taking an attunement slot. This ring will absorb Strahd's power if the players kill Strahd, and give that power to the devil. The ring additionally devours the soul of anyone the player kills to feed the devil. This ring can only be removed by a wish spell. The player gets the devil's promise that the devil will release the player's soul once he has Strahd's soul. This is not put in the contract, they just accept the devil's word. They additionally don't get any guarantees that the devil will let them out of Barovia once the devil gets Strahd's soul. They didn't think of it. So what should I do? I legitimately don't know how my party can get out of this. I tried to make it as obviously a bad idea as possible. I wasn't even trying to scam them. Honestly, if you're being upfront with them about this, about how bad of an idea this is, and that this is clearly a devil who is trying to get the sweetest deal for himself that he can, all while trying to screw you over in the most legal way for a devil as possible, let it ride. This sounds absolutely amazing if I'm honest. The taking away the high value items thing, maybe a little bit of a dick move, but if it's a balance thing, then yeah, I absolutely get that. New DM made fun of me for playing a woman. Hello! This story happened a few years ago and was online, but it recently came back to my current memory and thought I'd share. I had been playing with this group of people over Discord for 4 years at this point. We're all open about our personal lives, incredibly tasteful when we joke, usually, and are just generally good friends. The old DM, who I'm going to call Eric, not a real name, after the last session of his campaign, asked if anybody wanted to DM. Literally everyone said they'd rather be a player, but were willing to DM if needed. May I reiterate, we all said we were willing to DM if needed. And I appreciate that about you. And I also think everybody should DM at least at one point. After hearing about this, Eric told us that he had a friend who wanted to learn how to DM anyways, so it would be fine. We cut to a week later. We scheduled a night to play, and I was excited. I had just discovered that I was gender fluid at the time, so I was excited to play my first female D&D character. Okay, that's amazing. Her name was... How the f do you pronounce that? Hey, baby, I just messaged you a name. Can you attempt to pronounce that?
Haldif Cassia.
Haldif. Oh, Haldif. Yeah, that makes sense. Her name was Haldif Cassia. She was a neutral good, hill dwarf, circle of spores druid that was based on magical girl animes like Sailor Moon. I came up with a backstory, thought about her voice and unique lines she would say, and even made art, which isn't something I usually do for characters. I entered the call and met the new DM. For the sake of this post, we're gonna call him Alex. Alex was fine. Nothing about him seemed inherently off at first. He talked about the homebrew world he created, and it was genuinely interesting. He made a post-apocalypse style fantasy world with differing factions that your character could be a part of. Think Fallout, but with magic. The DM asked us to introduce our characters, and with me being ignorant and excited, I went first. I was getting into describing her backstory, of her noble parents selling her to a hag in order to save their own hides, but the hag ended up loving her and training her in the ways of fungus. Alex, after I was done describing, asked me why I used words like her and she to describe Haldif. Notes: he didn't ask in a genuine or curious way. He asked with a mildly aggressive tone. I can't mimic it through text, so just imagine how a Christian mom would point out how you're smoking. I, in confusion, just said the truth, that she was a girl. Alex then proceeded to ask why I would play a woman when I presented myself as a man in that same tone. I explained what being gender fluid was and how sometimes I wanted to act more like a woman than a man. He proceeded to laugh in my face and say, "Oh, you're playing a joke character." I explained to him that it wasn't a joke, and he didn't understand. He said that it had to be a joke. Otherwise, I was, really? During Pride Month? Otherwise, I was a liberal gay Eric then proceeded to kick him from the server in less than 19 seconds. 18 of those seconds were probably spent with their jaws on the floor. I understand that this isn't the worst thing in the world to happen, but it really stuck with me and made me feel insecure about playing Haldif or any other woman at the table for a long time. I did eventually start playing a female half-orc Storm Herald barbarian named Gura in the following campaign, but that happened after my old character died in a boss fight, which helped me reignite my passion for female D&D characters. That's good at least. Now, I must talk about the reason why this came back to my current memory. Well, that's because Haldif may come back. My group is starting to learn Pathfinder 2e. Oh my god, two in the same video. And I may try to convert Haldif into that system and play her in the new campaign. That is a fantastic idea. You absolutely should. Bring Haldif to life. Bring her into this world. Again, I know it's not the most spicy story or the most dramatic, but I wanted to vent it out somewhere. I hope you enjoyed reading the story and that you have a pleasant rest of your day. This first comment kind of sums it up perfectly. My character is a gnome. Okay. He's 250 years old. Okay. Has magical powers granted by draconic blood. Okay. Is female. No, you can't play a female. You're not a female in the real world. That's exactly what the logic is. Now, granted, I don't think that kind of person has logic. Beating your head into a wall on that one. Regardless, I am so happy that you are able to actually explore that about yourself. I'm glad that you have supportive friends. Eric is a f***ing boss. We need more Erics in this world. All right, that is a wrap. Wait, nope, I can't take that. That's Crispies. All right, y'all. I hope you enjoyed those stories. Thank you so much for all the support for the last video and the podcast as a whole. These will be going up on Spotify and iTunes as well from now on. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe. I would love to see you guys coming back. I do have some projects in the works. I love you all very much. Be safe and happy f***ing Pride.